and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. My name is Della, Shea, and I am the country CDO Ambassador for Canada and also a member of the Global Editorial Board for the CDO Magazine. And today I had the pleasure of talking with Gary Schneider, who is the Enterprise Data Governance Lead at MassMutual. So thank you, Gary, for joining me today. So in your experience, how do you go about crafting messages that people can actually understand? Because, this business is all about lingo and acronyms, and there's a lot to unpack. So can you share a little bit about what some of the things have been that proved to be successful in getting that message and that culture established?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you need a clear vision. You need to start with a clear vision, a clear message, and a clear mandate. They all sort of coalesce. They all sort of go together to allow you or to inform, the messaging and the approach that you want to take, for that messaging. And in my mind, and this may be controversial to some, but in my mind, it sort of starts with the establishment of policies and standards. Your policies and standards, which is one of the core aspects of a data governance program, define the target state that you want for your organization and the roles necessary to achieve it. By going through the exercise of establishing a few core policies and standards, in essence, what you're doing is you're establishing or defining what's your target state of governance of sound data management practices for your organization. That lays the foundation for your messaging and the understanding of the skills, stakeholder partnerships needed to succeed. I've also found, and this is, I think, is a common issue that is faced everywhere, irrespective of the industry within governance. I've also found that given the depth and complexity of executing a data governance program on an enterprise scale, that people often shut down and fail to engage as they have difficulty grasping the benefits of the program to their business function. What's in it for me, to their business function and their role within it. So success in identifying and engage, I use the term cadre of stakeholders, therefore depends on achieving a sort of macro-micro symbiosis. In other words, identifying focus efforts on specific business use cases or burning platforms that will benefit from the adoption of sound governance practices defined by the program, while also keeping the big picture themes as a constant backdrop. So you're sort of focusing and reinforcing the value of the data governance program to targeted businesses or platforms, but they still understand how they're contributing to the larger picture, the larger value of the overall program. Then celebrate and socialize those successes. That helps to garner the momentum and facilitate a broader buy-in or adoption. I often use, and I went to military college, I often use a military reference to explain this approach. I always say have a clear mission or an enterprise view on where you go, where you want to go and the benefits that it's going to yield. Establish formal sponsorship up the chain of command, and then begin to execute by establishing that beachhead that I just talked about within the business functions through these targeted smaller efforts that demonstrate value. Then train and equip those groups in the business and use them to build or drive adoption of these practices through their function in an ordered fashion. I guess finally, the identification of the stakeholders is certainly aided by company policies that mandate this work. I said, start with companies and policies. It changes the dynamic, and that you're now, instead of instead of sort of begging from the bottom up to get people to engage with you, you now have sort of a mandate from on high, which changes the relationship between, I'd say, the business process stakeholders and the data governance program, and that instead of begging and trying to acquire and enable resources, you're now helping them to achieve certain compliancy or policy objectives. At the end of the day, though, true stakeholder partnership is really only achieved when value can be demonstrated.
So it's interesting because there's so much to this, and I'm particularly interested in how you go about weaving in the concepts of data quality and what it is, what are the benefits, what it means to those individuals as you're kind of rolling out that communication strategy, as you're reinforcing the culture, because it is very critical that the data that people are using and making decisions and having access to is, number one, fit for purpose, it's accurate, and it's useful for those business objectives. So even that term data quality isn't inherently understood by stakeholders across the organization. So I'd be interested if you could share a little bit about some of your tried and true tips in terms of weaving those messages.
Yeah, I'll emphasize again that having clear, accountable policies and standards that clearly enumerate the requirements with respect to data quality for all functions, I think is sort of point.
Mhm.
It's really critical and foundational. Again, establishing what are the dimensions to data quality? What do we view as critical and important? And how do we want to approach it in a standardized way across the enterprise? So, for that reason, it should include these policies or standards should include, the standardized dimensions of data quality that we want to consider or address,
Mhm.
and the general processes that each of the businesses are to follow. Again, that establishes the guidance for the businesses, and is again as a de facto set of requirements that the governance teams can work with their business partners to adopt. Probably second point I'd have to place, and maybe this is obvious, maybe it's not, but I think the seventh critical point is to have clear ownership and accountability,
Mhm.
for data management for the data quality oversight within each business function, within each business process. Data is owned by each business. Again, maybe controversial, but data is owned by each business, and it follows that the business owns and is accountable for data quality. Of course, enabled by and in partnership with folks in technology. But disambiguating this often ambiguous issue or this often contentious issue, and clarifying roles around ownership is foundational to building a sound quality management practice. Owners do, of course, need to be empowered to fulfill their data quality obligations for the data that they own. But that's another opportunity for the data governance program, the data governance practice, to facilitate the tooling, the training, and guide the implementation of those quality standards, those quality practices across the enterprise in a standard way. A generally standardized approach to data quality should also produce data quality reporting and dashboards,
Mhm.
both the BU specific and on an enterprise scale. That level of transparency, along with, we talked earlier about sort of treating this as a risk management practice. The level of transparency and reporting and oversight of data quality, sort of combined with this risk management practice or this risk management construct, creates that multi-level awareness,
Right.
accountability, and drives that continuous improvement.
So are there certain types of KPIs or KRIs that you find provide the right type of transparency in terms of what is actually happening within the organization in terms of governance?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of old school and new school here. So I'm
Mhm.
admittedly, I'm getting older now. I'm admittedly a bit of old school, and that I still want to see error rates and trend statistics across all the data quality dimensions, by source system, data type, and critical business process, as sort of a foundational indicator of quality and the movement of quality or the changing dynamic of quality, and our focus. But we have to move beyond this, and moving beyond this, organizations need to have better insights into how data quality, a more mature, effective data quality management practice is driving business value, or managing risk in a quantifiable way. So metrics that measure changes in the impact of risk events, their frequency, and the effectiveness scores of our system of internal controls are generally things that I want to see. I want to see how effective our risk management practice is mitigating our risk, or is enhancing or providing greater business opportunity. There are a number of related measures, and I can list a few. There are a number of related measures that I think inform these, or also provide valuable insights on their own. So, I want to monitor risk ratings changes, that I can directly align to some of our data quality management practices. Expected value is something I want to see. Expected value effectively quantifies what we think the dollar impact of a particular risk or risk event would be, were it to occur. I want to see that. I want to see how the change in dynamic and improvement in our data quality controls and effectiveness of our controls is reducing the expected value of the risk events that we've identified. I want to look at things like the number of risk incidents or risk issues or data events that are occurring, and the trend related to that. That gives me an indication of, again, our effectiveness, our controls, and can directly map to the risk that's being mitigated or properly treated across the enterprise. But I want to see things as well. We talked earlier about sort of an offensive and defensive posture. More on the offensive side, I want to see how the data quality, the improvement in data quality, is improving our confidence in the data that we have. I want to assess whether it's realizing additional business or operational efficiencies. It's easier to find the data. It's easier to find quality data instead of sending out 15 emails and say, hey, who has this data? Who can help me? With sound data governance and data quality practices, I have a much greater opportunity to effectively and efficiently identify data quality or data that's of a sound data quality more efficiently and more effectively. We should be able to measure. We should be able to measure that. Another metric that is sort of the value of new or retained business. How has the improvement of our data quality improved our business processes, efficiencies, such that I can evidence through a quantified value of what that value of new or retained business is that's related to the data quality scores and the improvement of our data management practice. It's easier said than done, but I think these are the types of dynamic metrics that are going to inform how the data governance or data quality practice is mitigating risk on an enterprise scale across the organization. It can be measured on a specific business or business process level as well. And lastly, I want to see what our customers think. I'd like to see a percentage change in customer and stakeholder perception of our data quality and our business through things like an NPS score or a VOC score that I can map back to the work that we have progressed with respect to data quality and sounder data management practices. So there's a lot there, but
there is a lot there.
It is a real shift, and I think the traditional way folks have treated the measurement of the value that a data governance or quality practice brings.
Thank you, Gary. This has been an excellent discussion today. You certainly have so much knowledge and experience to share with this community. So I'm very thankful to have had this opportunity to chat with you today.
Thank you so much. It's truly been my honor and pleasure. Thank you very much.
And for other interviews, if anyone would like to see other content, please visit cdomagazine.tech.